Hello, my name is Mackenzie Hunt, and I am a proud member of Cohort 17, obviously. But I'm also employed with Monrovia Unified School District as a language, speech, and hearing specialist, and I currently have on my caseload 2 middle schools, and then I also work at the Adult Transition Program because I'm completing my adult externship. At my middle schools, most of my kids are working on similar goals. A lot of my kids, most of my kids struggle with understanding and creating complex sentences. A lot of my 6th and 7th graders come to me, and when we're doing personal narrative time, or if I'm doing a language analysis, I get a lot of simple sentences. Occasionally, I get sentences with coordinating conjunctions like and or but. I get some kids that are using because, subordinating conjunction, but oftentimes when they're using because, it's in a phrase, not a complete sentence. But I also get that one in complete sentences. But when you start to introduce words like so, if, then, after, before, until, instead, otherwise, my students really have a difficult time both creating sentences that contain those types of words and understanding sentences or directions that contain those kinds of words. So today, in my therapy video, we are going to be doing a lesson on, or a therapy session on coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. Typically, my hypothetical therapy group is going to be a group of 7th graders with language disorder. And usually in that group I have students that are working on creating both coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. So we'll be targeting both of those in this lesson, and I'm excited to get started. Okay. When I am planning therapy, it's really important that I don't have to do a lot of prep work. This is mostly because at this point my caseload is really high and I just don't have time to get all that creative. So I want my resources to be supported by an evidence base, and I want to have a really good rationale for using them, but I also want to be able to pull them right up, and I want them to be engaging and fun for the students, and I also I just need it to be pretty easy because that's just the situation. So with that being said, the resource that I'll be using today is called SLP Now. It's actually a membership service. It's a website, and I used to pay for the membership on my own, but now my district pays for it, and all the other SLPs on our staff have started using it. It's a really awesome resource. If you don't have it, I would recommend getting it. There's all this different stuff involved, billing and therapy planning, but today we'll be focused on the material section. They have a really neat library of materials, and it's growing all the time. I've been using it for about a year. It's already grown like just so much. And what's so neat is that every material that you pull up, it's kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers, where it's like worksheets, but everything has, it cites the evidence for using it. And so actually it's so much of my therapy is cited by, it's like it has a little Rhea Paul citation. So then you just feel good, like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. And if you have any questions, you can actually look up the source because we obviously have that book. Hi. So I will show you some of these materials, not on my iPad because there is a glare, but you'll see how easy it is for me to not have to print anything. But if you don't have access to an iPad, you can print something. I don't know why you wouldn't have access to an iPad. Get an iPad or your phone or just anything. But the complex sentence skill pack is here. And then you just kind of scroll down. I usually go to assessment 1 here, and I'm not going to assess any students today, but it just has a bunch of simple sentences listed that can easily be combined to make complex sentences. So I start out the therapy session with explicit instruction. And I usually do this on the whiteboard. So we're going to go there right now. So to begin therapy, I go to slpnow.com, I log in, I go to the materials icon at the top, and there's a little search engine on the left-hand side. I type into that search bar complex sentences, and I get a complex sentence skill pack that I'll show you in the next video. Okay, so now we're here at the board, and I've got my little iPad there, so no printing of materials necessary. I'll draw a big line here, I'll draw a big plus here, and I'll draw another big line here. And this is where I'm going to put my two simple sentences, and then we're going to use our coordinating or subordinating conjunctions to make some new sentences. So my first sentence that I'll get from my little material on my iPad is, I went to school and I got dressed. So we'll write both of those simple sentences up there. I went to school, one sentence. I got dressed, a second sentence. And depending on what level my students are at, if they're brand new to learning coordinating or subordinating conjunctions, or if we've been working on it for a while, I'll give them or I won't give them the word. But for this group, we're going to assume that this is a new skill that we're working on, and so I'll give them the word. And I'll say, student A, can you combine this first sentence, I went to school, with our second sentence, I got dressed, using the word and I'll just write it up there. And student A will raise his hand and he'll say, I went to school and I got dressed. I went to school and I got dressed. We say it a few times. And then I say, okay, student A, can you combine these two sentences using another word? What about this word? After. After. Can you combine these two sentences using the word after? The student will say, I went to school after I got dressed. After I got dressed. And if he's confused, I may have to do a model before he makes it. Then I say, oh, look what we can do. I went to school after I got dressed. Can anyone else make another sentence using the word after? And if a student can do it, woohoo. If not, I'll model for them that we can take this portion and we can put it in front and make this sentence. After I got dressed, I went to school. We'll usually do this type of activity for probably 10 to 12 different simple sentence combinations, right? So 10 to 12 complex sentences, and even there we'll make complex sentences multiple ones of those. That usually will take about 20 minutes, and if we're looking at a 45-minute session, it's time to kind of transition, and we'll practice the skill in another context. So at this point, I like to transition from this type of instruction to targeting the skill in another context. I try to do that in naturalistic context, and in this setting with middle schoolers, really try to get the students to target the skill in a way that relates, back to their curriculum. So I like to do a narrative intervention where we take a current event article. I have a website that I love to use, News ELA. It's free. I pull it up again on my iPad. We do a little narrative analysis. We'll usually determine the main idea and the key details of the text. We'll do a little connection to world knowledge, but during this entire time, I'm having the students generate sentences about the article. And so we'll pull up an article today and I'll kind of show you how. Okay, so I've got my News ELA article and I will show you that on the screen because I know the glare is horrible, but I just want to show you again how accessible it is on the iPad. So it's a free resource. All you have to do is create a sign-in, and it's current events written for kids. The kids love them, and it actually stipulates what grade level each article is written at, which is really nice. This one, Marsquake, NASA's InSight detects likely tremor on Mars, is written at a 6th grade level. Now I know that my hypothetical therapy students are at 7th grade, but they have language impairment, and so this type of article is probably appropriate for them. Sometimes I'll use 7th grade level, and I'll scaffold it appropriately. Usually I try to mirror the scaffolding with how the teacher's doing it in their English SAI classes, just so we're kind of on the same page and the kids feel like they're in a groove. But what I usually do, it will do a little narrative analysis, kind of find main idea, key details, but I like to connect what they're reading with their world knowledge, and I'll show you how I do that on the board. So as we go through our article, I will write down keywords, right? Marsquake. And I'll ask the kids, what does that make you think of? And they'll say, earthquake, shaking, planets, red, space, etc. And then we'll go through that insight. What does the insight make you think of? Robot, spaceship, claw, whatever it is. And as we're going through the article, we'll stop and I'll ask them questions, probing questions, inference questions. Well, what does that make you think of? Or what do you think is going to happen next? And we'll write just little keywords here from our discussion up on the board. And then we will use those keywords to generate sentences. Okay, so I'll take one of our keywords like Marsquake, and I'll have the kids generate a simple sentence. There was a Marsquake last week. And then off the top of my head, I'll think of another simple sentence that could be used in conjunction. Well, yeah, that you would need a conjunction, right? So, and this is, again, no prep, right? Off the top of my head. I'd say a robot was able to sense it. Okay, so that's another sentence. And then I'd say, how can we combine these two simple sentences, right? And I might even use the plus sign again because the line with the plus is what they have before, using the word because. And we'll have a kid put because here. There was a Marsquake last week because a robot was able to sense it. And then I'll have them switch it around. Because a robot was able to sense it, there was we found a Marsquake last week, right? You know, that's not the best sentence. But that's the kind of thing we'll do. And we'll do it probably 10 or 15 times with all those keywords that we found from our analysis, right, of our article. And I find that the kids find that to be really engaging. And then the more practice that they have analyzing literature and, you know, nonfiction texts is the better. So I feel like this way I get a lot of bang for my buck. And that is a typical subordinating or coordinating conjunction therapy lesson here at Santa Fe Middle School. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.